Famous authors involved in a literary feud. Written and narrated by Yolanda A. Reed. Number 1. Margaret Drabble. For years, Drabble has been enmeshed in a feud with British author A. S. Byatt, her sister. Drabble, 2 years younger, has stated in an interview that the rivalry began since childhood. Although both women are award-winning authors, each disregards the other's books. Drabble's memoir is The Pattern in the Carpet. Number 2. Joyce Maynard. In her memoir, At Home in the World, Maynard recounts her doomed romance with literary icon author J. D. Salinger and the years she lived with him. At the time, she was 18 years old. He was 53. The book gives fascinating details, including how, decades after the breakup, Maynard confronted Salinger in an attempt to exorcise her psychological demons. Number 3. Zora Neale Hurston. The author met poet Langston Hughes during the 1920s Harlem Renaissance. By 1930, they began a collaboration on Mulebone, a comedy of Negro life, a play based on Hurston's short story. At some point, they fervently disagreed on plot points in the play and on the typist, Louise Thompson, who had gotten close to Hughes. To Hurston's dismay, Hughes invited a third collaborator to join them. So, during the summer hiatus, Hurston wrote a new version of the play and submitted it with only her name on the byline. Hurston's memoir is Dust Tracks on a Road, an autobiography. But it's her biographer, Valerie Boyd, who fully addresses the fracas in Wrapped in Rainbows, the life of Zora Neale Hurston. Number 4. Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Nobel laureates, Colombian author Garcia Marquez and Mario Vargas Llosa, the renowned Argentinian author, were at one point good friends. Vargas Llosa became enamored with a flight attendant from Sweden. He separated from his wife. Garcia Marquez counseled Mrs. Vargas Llosa to dissolve the marriage. Then, in 1976, once the fling had ended, Vargas Llosa met Garcia Marquez by coincidence at a film premiere and promptly punched him in the jaw. Number 5. Alexander Pushkin. A descendant of African ancestry, Pushkin endured painful rumors that referenced the infidelity of his wife, Natalia Goncharova Pushkina. Regarded as a great beauty, Goncharova was rumored to be Tsar Nicholas I's mistress and that of military officer George Dantes. In 1836, someone sent Pushkin a satire that characterized him as a cuckold. In response, he sent an insulting letter to Dantes and his father, Baron von Hakeren. The letter was in effect a challenge to a duel. On the morning of the duel, Dantes stood 10 paces from Pushkin, fatally wounding him. Nevertheless, today Pushkin is considered the greatest poet in Russian history. Number 6. Gertrude Stein. An American expat who lived in Paris from 1903 to 1946 when she died. Stein was a writer and art enthusiast who hosted a salon for writers and artists of the day. She met and befriended author James Joyce. The two would take walks to the zoo as they discussed literary topics. At the time Stein's star was ascending, he was struggling. One day, Stein giddily disclosed she had completed a poetry book while on a sugar high. As she had gained a bit of weight, Joyce pinched her in the tummy as he teased her like a schoolboy, giggling. Self-conscious about her buxom body, Stein remained serious, not amused in the least. From that day, the friendship began to rupture. Her memoir is The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. Number 7. Lillian Hellman. In her memoir, An Unfinished Woman, Hellman writes, "All I mean is that I left too much of me unfinished because I wasted too much time." The Hellman-McCarthy feud began when, in a 1980 interview with Dick Cavett, author Marion McCarthy was asked to name a few overrated writers. McCarthy replied, "The only one I can think of is a holdover like Lillian Hellman, who I think is tremendously overrated, a bad writer, and dishonest writer. Furthermore," McCarthy quipped, every word she writes is a lie, including and the." The next day, Hellman filed a lawsuit for $2.2 million against McCarthy, Cavett, and PBS. They spent the next 4 years trying to parse the legal issues until Hellman's death in 1984. So much time wasted. Number 8. V.S. Naipaul. An Indo-Trinidadian by birth, Servidea first befriended author Paul Theroux when they were both young men teaching at Makerere University in Uganda. 7 years later, in 1972, Theroux published a favorable book of literary criticism about his mentor, V.S. Naipaul, An Introduction to His Work. But in 1995, the friendship of 30 years began to unravel. That year, Servidea's wife of 41 years died after a debilitating illness. 2 months later, at age 64, Servidea remarried to a 20 years younger journalist, Nadida Naipaul, who took a dislike to Theroux. Lady Naipaul banned any visits or contact by mail or phone from Theroux. As a result, in 1998, Theroux published Servidea's Shadow, a tell-all memoir on the friendship. The feud lasted 15 years in total. Each writer made the occasional negative public comment about the other until 2011, when they reunited, 10 years after Servidea won the Nobel Prize. The end.